The Euphrates has been the cradle of civilization in West Asia. The river has been the lifeline for millions in Iraq and Syria.
Golden mountains showed up after the Euphrates River finally dried up. Have you ever wondered what secrets lurk beneath a river surface? Imagine a once mighty river drying up, only to reveal a breathtaking surprise that had been concealed for decades. We have an astonishing story to tell you today. Prepare to be enthralled as we discover the mystery of the Golden Mountains that arose when the fabled Euphrates River ran dry. Are you ready to go on an adventure full of wonder and intrigue? The Euphrates River, which is sometimes referred to as the Nahr al Furat, is the longest in Western Asia and is considered to be one of the most historically significant rivers. Its typical area is 190,000 square miles, and it stretches for around 1,700 miles in length. It's the longest river in all of Western Asia. And since there is typically more precipitation and melting runoff in April and May, the water level rises at that time of year. Along with the river, there are some remnants of the original vegetation. The Euphrates River, for instance, cuts through a xeric woods in the southeast Turkish mountains. Along the river's edge, you may also find many different kinds of flora and fauna, such as rose and plum trees, pistachio trees, and oaks. Cereal crops, including wheat, rye, and oat, are more abundant in arid climates. The Euphrates River is not only aesthetically pleasing with spectacular scenery, but also historically significant. For instance, several ancient settlements, including Sipar, Nipar, Shuyupak, Mari, and Urkuk, were located near rivers. Money could be bought with water. It made the land near the riverbank suitable for farming. Cuneiform tablets from Shuyupak and pre-Sargonic Nippur are the earliest historical references to the Euphrates River. Approximately 3,000 years ago, it was created. The ancient Sumerians had a word for it, Burununa. The river shares its name with an ancient city in modern-day Iraq called Sipar. There is probably some sort of sacred or important link between the city and the river. The river is also extremely significant because it contains the sign of Qiyamah, which refers to the ultimate judgment that all-powerful Allah will pass on to humanity. The name of the river comes from a phrase in Persian that means Euphrates. Its beginnings can be traced back to the mountainous regions of eastern Turkey, and it eventually made its way to the Persian Gulf via the Tigris River, also known as the Dajla River. Both the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers are responsible for the development of the ancient Mesopotamian civilization, which flourished in their basins. There was also a great success for the ancient Sumerian, Babylonian, and Assyrian civilizations in this area. The length of the river is around 2,800 kilometers, and its drainage basins over 4.4 million square kilometers. The river is bordered on its left, right, and south by Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, respectively. Its basin is meanwhile spread across 5 nations, and it is home to an estimated 23 million people in total. Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor, both in Syria, and Ramadi in Iraq are the major cities that are located along the riverbank. The highlands of Turkey provide 90% of the river's water supply, even though Turkey only accounts for 30% of the river's overall basin. Because of how shallow the river is, the only vessel that can navigate across it is a little boat. The river plays a significant role in the provision of water. The water of the river is used for irrigation and hydroelectric power generation in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. At the present day, the higher courses of the Euphrates River are home to a significant population of Turks, while the middle and lower courses of the river are home to a significant population of Kurds and Arabs. In addition, there is a sizable population of Christians and Jews living in this area. All of the people who have made their homes along the banks of the Euphrates River depend critically on the river for their survival. Along the Syrian river banks, various crops like olives, fruits, tobacco, and cereal grains are cultivated for human consumption. Rice, corn, wheat, barley, sugar beets, and date palms are some of the crops that are grown in this region of Iraq, where production is primarily reliant on irrigation. Several different historians have asserted that Firat is an essential part of the history of Karbala. Firat was there during the entire 3 days that Hazrat Imam Hussein and his family members and associates suffered from thirst before being put to death. On the 2nd of Muharram in the year 61 Hijra, Hazrat Imam Hussein arrived in Karbala. However, on the 3rd of Muharram, the adversary's forces forced Hazrat Imam Hussein to move his tents away from the bank of the Firat Canal, even though he had ordered them to remain there. At this point, the flow of water from the Firat was forcibly halted for the members of Hazrat Imam Hussein's family, as well as his friends. The tents that were housing Hazrat Imam Hussein were deprived of their water source. There was not a single drop of water that could be given to any of the prisoners or adversaries. On the 7th of Muharram, all of the water was used up. The camps are full of sorrow since they do not have access to water, and in the searing heat of the desert, there was nothing to feed anyone, not even the very small children. Everyone was suffering from a severe case of thirst. However, other people have stated that the tragedy in Karbala had no connection to the Euphrates River. The Euphrates River will dry up, which is one of the minor signals that the Qiyamah is getting closer. This will be followed by the appearance of a gold hill or mine. There is going to be a horrific war to occupy, and out of every 9 people that join, 7 of them will have to be willing to accept death. The most important point, though, is that the river will soon stop flowing. Since 1999, the governments of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq have constructed a total of 12 barrages at various points in time, which has led to an alarming decline in the water level. According to Hadith, the mountains of gold will be uncovered when the water in the Euphrates River is allowed to evaporate. When we take into account the circumstances at hand, it is not that far away, because studies conducted by the Global Water Forum have demonstrated that the amount of water carried by the Euphrates River is quickly diminishing. Abu Hurairah, a famous companion, said that the Fourth Fitna is the darkness of the blind, which will rise like the waves of the sea. There will be no dwelling left of the Arabian or non-Arabian where the Fitna will not enter. This includes all houses in the world. Muslims will continue to suffer embarrassment as a result of this fitna. It is expected that fitna will move throughout Sham country, which is located in Syria, but it will spend the night in Iraq. It will continue to disperse across the Arabian land by people walking and handing it off to others. If the fitna will be mixed with people like skin to skin, then the problem will take on such a widespread and lethal shape that people won't be able to differentiate between those who are healthy and those who are not. At that precise moment, nobody will have the courage to put a halt to the fitna. On the other hand, even while there is a whiff of calm blowing in one direction, fitna will intensify on the other side. If someone is a Muslim in the morning, by sunset they will be considered a kafir, which means they do not believe in Islam. No one is immune to the influence of that disease or temptation. However, only those individuals can live, such as the person who is drowning in the water and yelling for assistance. It is estimated that it will run for around a dozen years, at the end of which everyone will understand everything. In the interim, there will be an appearance of a golden bridge in the river Firat. For the sake of occupying that, everyone will go to war, and 7 out of every 9 people will be killed. According to Hadith, the mountain of gold will manifest itself 12 years after the beginning of the Fourth Fitna, which refers to the violence in Syria. Since the conflict in Syria began in 2011, several Islamic thinkers have predicted that the river will be observed drying up during the month of Ramadan in the year 2023. According to the hadith that has been given, one of the signs that the end of the world is near is when the Euphrates reveals a mountain made of gold. As the water level in the river drops, the gold in the riverbed is becoming more obvious. Even the Bible refers to the dwindling of the river Euphrates as a sign of the tremendous war that will take place between the soldiers of truth and the armies of untruth before the end of the world. On the mighty river Euphrates, the 6th angel poured out the contents of his bowl. Its water was evaporated so that the path might be made ready for the monarchs who came from the east. I witnessed the emergence of 3 impure spirits that resembled frogs. They emerged from the mouth of the dragon, and the mouth of the beast, and the mouth of the false prophet, respectively. These were demon spirits that manifested themselves as signs. They went out across the world and contacted the rulers of every nation in order to assemble their armies for the war that was to take place on the great day of God the Almighty. "Behold, I am coming as a thief," the angel replied. "Whoever observes and makes sure that his clothes are ready, so that he doesn't end up going naked and having people see him exposed, will be blessed." After that, they gathered all the kings together at the location that, in Hebrew, is known as Armageddon. This from Revelation chapter 16, verses 12 through 16 from the book of Revelations in the Bible. The fight that our Christian brothers and sisters refer to as Armageddon is known as al-Malhama al-Kubra among Muslims. As a result, we can see that the river Euphrates is accorded a significant amount of prominence as a sign of the end of times in both the Hadith and the Bible. After getting familiar with the verses in the Bible, we can discern that the kings who will be fighting in the ultimate war are being prepared for their roles by the drying up of the river Euphrates. In the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 16, it is said that they then assembled the kings at the place that is named Armageddon in Hebrew. The name Armageddon derives from the Hebrew phrase, mountain of Megiddo, or the valley of Megiddo. If the Euphrates River stops flowing, a valley will become visible, and the name of that valley is Megiddo. In light of the evidence presented, what kind of conclusion can we draw? The following is a relatively straightforward conclusion. Very quickly, the preparations to bring an end to the gigantic circus that is known as worldly life are being put into motion. Something that is mentioned in the verse of the Bible that is given at the beginning of the article is quite intriguing, and it opens up the doors to consider the prophecies that are found in Ahedith. Let's go back and take another look at that verse. On the huge river Euphrates, the sixth angel poured out the contents of his bowl. Its waters were made to run dry, so that the path may be made ready for the monarchs of the east. Even though a number of people assert that the Hadith is not genuine, a number of well-known scholars support its status as a genuine one. The Hadith can be summarized like this. When you hear the news that black flags are coming from the east, then you must join them, even if you have to crawl over ice to reach them. At that point in time, the mountain of gold that is located in the historical Kirkizia next to Deir ez-Zor in Syria will be washed away. Syria will soon have its first Sufi leader in charge of the country. He will consolidate his dominance in Syria by expelling the Ashab nation, which flies the black flag, and the Tuareg people, who fly the yellow flag. During the holy month of Ramadan, mountains of gold will begin to float, and then their allies in Turkey and the United States will move in to claim ownership of them. After that, the first Sufyan would come down to fight against them, and throughout this conflict, between 100,000 and 160,000 people might lose their lives. However, no one is able to occupy it. The fight of gold, which is being swept into the Euphrates, will not involve the guiding party, or the flag, which is excellent news for the Muslim pilgrims. Also, the combat will not take place. Only for the sake of meting out punishment to Munafiq, Murtad, and Kafir, the sinners of Islam, would God open the gates to the mountains of gold. That's all for today's video, but we'll be right back with more soon. Please make sure you give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more, and thanks for watching.